speed and at a very relaxing speed. And in the health services, and I'm calling us health, but I prefer to call BYD as education. And our fields that we walk and journey, we already have these skills. And when I used to teach this course a couple of years ago to just the BYD crew, I would say, look, everything that you're doing today is qualitative research. It's just how you separate that professional at the door. We've lost quite a few people since lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the journey that we will take. I do know that there's some things going on.
What's happening?
Lunch. Extended lunch. Okay, so the qualitative researcher, and I'm going to pick up Rose's picture that she talked about the fishbowl, because it actually really did stimulate quite a bit of where today's been. So the first part of this day has been the quantitative researcher sitting outside the fishbowl, trying to count, trying to actually see everything that's going on inside that fishbowl from an objective perspective, so not from the fishbowl's perspective or the fish's perspective. The qualitative researcher, and these are all words taken from an academic called Walcott, is very, very intent of actually being in the fishbowl. They really want to know what's going on. So they'll be looking very intently in any way possible, right to the point that they might even, just pull things aside, pull things out. Hence why I like that, being there, getting nosy, looking over others' shoulders. They really want to get the deep story. That's why we say quality equals qualitative and quantity equals quantitative. A qualitative researcher will say, I know that I haven't got their story completely, so then they will go, Arahina, I just want to verify with you on our journey for the last few years. You've talked a lot about how you found this year to be the transformative year of your life. Would you say that that story I picked up of your life is true? And if you said yes, then I'd be able to go, yes, what I'm seeing is Arahina's story. A qualitative researcher recognises while they may see someone's world, they can't see the world through that person's glasses. So they recognise directly their limitations as a researcher. So a qualitative researcher sees himself first as a learner. Sucking in everything that's going in around them. One of the, have any of you seen the really great movie Hot Fuzz?
Oh,
really good cartoon, a really good Simon Pegg movie about the British police force.
Yeah.
And the British constable in it, he has a trusty weapon, and in Britain they don't have guns as weapons in the police force like we do. Instead in Britain they have notebooks. And so the whole joke about this whole movie is this notebook and the central role the notebook takes until the guns come out. But yeah, qualitative researchers' most precious asset is their notebook. And when I'm stuck in the middle of researching, I always have a notebook of some description. Today it's called a phone. And what I will do is I will record orally in something, a reflection, or I might type in something that's going on. I actually do work better with paper when it comes to notebooks, to be honest. So I'll write down everything I'm seeing. We'll go further into what that role is, but I'm really trying to suck in everything and deeply reflect what's going on. So the first tool of the qualitative researcher is the notebook. And in the notebook we have what's called field notes. In youth development we call this a reflective journal. And in your other courses you also have reflections as well. But field notes, and this is what I mean, you're doing this all the time. So those of you who are in counselling will recall that often after you see a client you're trained to actually write down some notes of that session afterwards. Youth workers are required also to write down personal evaluations after sessions and stuff like that. We call these field notes in everyday practice and qualitative research, and there are three types. There are descriptive notes, methodological notes, and reflexive notes. Descriptive notes, methodological notes, and reflexive notes. And they occur at all times, but they don't tend to occur during. So, like if I'm interviewing someone, I might go, oh no, just busy in this interview, I just quickly need to take some notes down and just got some reflections. You wouldn't do that. You're just totally being rude. So you tend to take them before and after, but not during. So what are descriptive notes? Oh, go backwards.
Scrubs the field including maps.
Descriptive notes are observations. A really good youth worker, a really good counsellor or addictions person's doing this all the time. As soon as the person enters the room, they're making an observation of what's going on. A good teacher does it as well. So I will, and this is very typical of my sort of field notes. If I was to do one for this class, I'd go at this point in time. When I first started in the first 10 minutes, everyone was engaged, everyone was taking notes. One person gradually fell asleep at the side about the 2 o'clock mark, and then 6 people left at the 4 o'clock mark, which then meant everyone else left. So I'll actually be describing everything that's going on that I've observed, and I might put down some reflection as well. I might also, and also this is particularly the case in education and in ethnography, I might actually draw a little map in my notes of the setting. So I might say, oh, there was tables here, and it just means I've got a picture of where to go back to. I just have a general idea of how everything was placed. If I was doing an observation, doing field notes, and part of the observation was I was looking in those windows in those rooms down the back there of how people were working with their clients on a one-on-one relationship in those field notes, I would be actually talking about the seat position. Because seat positions, BYDs might not know this very, very much because it doesn't get taught in our course, but seat positions are very, very important in one-on-one relationships. And a seat position like this is actually probably going to engage someone better than a seat position like this.
Yeah.
So I nearly fell off the seat then. So I'd be noticing those things down because I'll know that those seat positions, I'm not going to be talking variables anymore, but if I was a quantitative researcher, it's like an extraneous seat position. But I'll know that that seat position might actually influence what's going on.
In my space.
In my sphere. Methodological field notes are simply just that. Notes on your methodology and how it's working. In my master's, this is what changed my methods, my research methodology, was I was taking notes on what I was doing and finding out it wasn't working. So today I interviewed so-and-so and so-and-so, talk about, one of the field notes would go like this is true. I think I might have even shared this, but so my notes at the end of the day would have gone like this. Today, I've just finished my first interview for my master's research. The interview went for 2 hours and my supervisor told me it was meant to go for 30 minutes. But it was really clear that this person who had no visitors because she was on home detention really appreciated the fact that she had someone to talk to. So it was worth spending 2 hours with her. I was really rapt with all the data I got from them. I was really looking forward to what I could do until I got to the car and I realised that the tape deck that I was using didn't record a single word of that interview. And instead recorded nothing but static because a button hadn't been pushed in. So I had to go back and do the interview, and I'm certain that the interview I did afterwards, which did go for half an hour, wasn't as rich as the interview that I did beforehand. So those are notes completely on the methodology and how it's worked out for me. Today I did a focus group. Only 2 people talked in the focus group, and there were 16 people in the focus group. I don't think the focus group worked.
Do you do in regards to the example you used where the dictaphone didn't work or anything, do you say how you would change it the next time?
Yeah, so next time I would actually bring two dictaphones, and a young girl that I'm mentoring at the moment who's going to come and speak to the BYD students, you may have met her at the conference last week, Arahina. Hene?
Oh,
Yeah, so she's going to come and talk to our students. But she asked me, how am I going to record the guys? How am I going to record them? I said, take my advice. Take 2 recording devices. One you trust, and one is your backup. So now I have this one that I trust. She's got it at the moment because I've lent it to her. And it's tiny, so I can stick it in a pocket, and it's actually got a microphone that comes up here. And my cell phone is my backup. So both are recording, but if one doesn't work, the other one's going to pick it up. And if you do any changes, qualitative researchers consider it imperative that you always note down the changes that you're doing. I decided to, I planned a semi-structured interview, but I decided to go unstructured because the person was completely open. And probably in my masters, it was because I keep making these changes that I had to have 2 methodologies.
Can you do that?
No, not really.
Oh,
Unless you got 2 methodologies.
you can have 2 methodologies?
Yeah, well, I did and got a pass for it.
Yay, okay, that works.
Yeah, but I haven't published a journal article on it or anything because I think the thing is that there is space for flexibility. Like, for example, in my masters where it's not with 2 methodologies. The problem with my masters was I didn't have a research question. That's what I said last week. I had a research topic, not a question. So I wasn't focused. I was all over the place. Hence why 2 methodologies. But with the masters, I didn't get through. I got through ethics committee at the university the first time, but I said I was interviewing women in prison on site. But I didn't get the Department of Corrections approval because you're not allowed to do this till after you got ethics approval. I didn't get to my Department of Corrections approval because I was doing qualitative discourse analysis and they felt that was inappropriate. Why they felt it was inappropriate is because they prefer the quantitative styles, and also qualitative discourse analysis, which is based on cultural studies, is about questioning the norms. And so hence what would end up happening is these women's experiences in prison, if they questioned what corrections was doing, which they did, then so all my diary on the ethics process is reflecting all of what's going on. Then I have to change my whole sample and go back to the ethics committee. So those sort of changes. Or I planned to do 6 focus groups, but I couldn't get students interested in focus groups, so I changed to interviews. Yeah, so that sort of stuff. Okay, reflexive field notes sit often alongside your descriptive and methodological notes, but reflexive means deep, deep reflection. This is beyond reflection. I did this and this is what's going to happen. This is the reflection I told you about last week when I was doing my analysis and I realised that I was cutting these women's lives apart with a pair of scissors. That's reflexive analysis. When you're actually going deeply in on yourself and going, what part am I playing in this? We call it in the BYD when we get to the 3rd year, double loop reasoning. So what part am I in this process of reflection, in this process is happening? Not just what happened, what do I need to change it? What part did I have? How am I influencing it? How am I developing as a researcher? And my master's thesis is actually full of notes from my diary on that reflexive stuff, particularly around ethics, because it made me realise how important ethics was, but also how ethics had become a bureaucracy within a university structure. It took 8 months for me to get ethics approval. And for one of my friends, it took 6 years for her to get ethics approval for a PhD. So,
What was the topic?
her topic, well, it is controversial. She was doing an ethnography in a community of marijuana smokers.
So did they have to ask other opinions, like the people that make the decision, did they have to go and ask other people what took so long?
They're a law unto themselves.
You have to wait until someone new comes into the ethics committee.
I learned something people that know me know that I like to give you all the information you need to know. So when I go for my ethics application, I gave them all the information that they needed to know, and that was a mistake. I should have just said, this is my study, this is my question. this is what I've got set up in place to protect me and these women, but not, the possibilities are the woman could do this, 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 this. They wanted me to list and I listed absolutely, I brainstormed everything that could go wrong, so therefore I was my own worst enemy. So less is best, I learned in ethics applications. But you know, I got a really strong conference paper out of that, and I had the Ivan Snook, who's the emeritus professor in the university, who oversees the whole ethics process in New Zealand. He said that it was a groundbreaking paper that I presented at the conference, and I was only like 22, 23 at the time, so I didn't know he was in the crowd either. So when he asked a question, I just answered it. And someone said outside the room, "How did you cope with Professor Ivan Snook?" But you know, reflexive notes, they're the bread and butter of a good qualitative researcher. Turn around, camera turn. Oh, I've got those in the wrong order. So the next space and the next key tool that a qualitative researcher might use, they might not, in youth development this is quite a big tool for researchers, and that's observation. Oh, I don't even know what I don't know why I keep reading off. Yeah.
Can you use that if you were to be evaluated through your observation? Can you use that? Can you incorporate the evaluation into your research?
If you were doing, you mean if you're being observed and evaluated?
Yeah.
If you're doing action research, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It would be a very nice piece of triangulation in action research. Observations are generally done they're around theories, proving theories, disproving theories, and really they are one of the very first tools of qualitative research that's ever been invented. So that's what you saw with that woman, the Aboriginal woman coming into the barbecue area, and I love how they spell it.
Yeah.
What she's doing very first is observing. Why are this ritual of burning sausages, these technological ornaments that are lined by the broken out cars and the art everywhere, the graffiti. What we had to do once at university was actually go to a cafe and do a proper observation. So you sit in the cafe for a little while, have a cup of tea with people, and then you begin to observe what's going around. There's some stages in it, we'll go through the stages, and then you hone down. And at times you might be proving a theory that you know of, or you might be disproving. But it gives you a picture of the world. You can't see the world unless you look at the world. That's the secret of observation. And we've already talked about how it sits with triangulation. So the idea it becomes one tool, not the tool. If any researcher used observation alone and said that that was their only methodology, I would go, there's something highly problematic, because it's all very well seeing a world, but you've also got to listen to the world. And that involves talking to people. So the key things that observations are looking at are interactions, behaviours, the context that things are happening in, the setting, and what's happening overtly and what's happening covertly. So in my little bit of an observation here, I would do the typical map drawing of what's going on. And I'm noticing people are engaging, all is having a power nap. Or she's on her phone. She was on her phone. Were you on your phone? No. And that, yes, I've noticed some behaviours. I'm noticing that the interaction is very one way. All I'm doing is talking at you, which is very boring. That we're all in this routine of learning or not learning. And the overt and the covert is the seen and the not seen. So I'm seeing what's been seen, but sometimes there's things going on that I'm actually not quite aware of. And that really requires observation.
So that feeling.
So that requires a really deep observation. So I don't know fully, I've made all these points here of what's going on, but I don't know overtly what's going on. So I'm getting a bit more of a picture of what's going on. And I can see that, I knew that this person. Now you can see that right at the back, whilst this person may look like a typical researcher up the front, learning and everything, at the moment he's getting himself ready to be on the pilot program for Aotearoa. Is that correct?
I'm seeing what I have to do.
He's seeing what he has to do. So he's engaged. It doesn't mean he's not learning. As a researcher, I cannot make that judgment. We have a student in the BYD that colours every time she's in class. She's still learning. So I'm not making a judgment that a bad researcher will make a judgment, but I'm going to be going, there's more than one thing happening in this room. More than one thing happening. So as I was a researcher, overtly looking this way, then over here we've got the power stack happening. So, but all of this is indicating something, and it really will tell me some things about the rules of this society, believe it or not. In this classroom, it's okay to eat. In this classroom, it's okay to be doing another job at the same time. It's a lot more flexible than we realise. We make huge judgment calls about teaching and learning and where people are at. Don't realise that we're actually looking at little mini societies and cultures in themselves. So, this is all boring stuff. So observations can take many ways. You've got the traditional pen and paper stuff that happens all the time. But you can be also using cameras, recorders, photos. There's nothing as powerful though as going to the combination of like using a camera. That camera at the moment is just observing me, so we've got that research instrument here. But we've also then had the research instrument of me walking around, because what the camera doesn't see is you. So I cannot make any judgments about the students from that camera, only the judgments that have come from me as a talker about those students. So there are 4 phases of observations, and this is how we work. And I'd really encourage you that these qualitative techniques, these can be part of your professional practice. They don't have to be part of research in themselves. So the first one is scoping, the next one's descriptive, focused, and then selective. And they mean what they say. They mean what they say. And you might recall that I've said right at the beginning, this is how we make research questions too. We scope, and then we focus in and select the stuff that works. It's the way that we do analysis in qualitative research too. We scope everything we've got. We then try to find the themes. It takes a lot of work, qualitative analysis. And we select quotes and stuff that show us those themes. And then we'll put description around all of that. So all of these words are key for qualitative research. So scoping involves... well, we're going to press this one too many. Scoping is getting part of that, becoming part of that world. Simply getting a sense of what that world's like. So when my friend and I had to go to a cafe to actually do a proper observation, our first sense was as soon as we walked through the door, we've got to scope this place out. Where are the seats? Where's the counter? What are the rules for ordering coffee? Because in every cafe in Wellington, it's always slightly different the way you order the coffee. So we're trying to find out just how this happens here. Do we go to the counter and pay for it first? Or do we go and sit down and wait for someone to come to us? So we're just standing, scoping, seeing what it is, because like most people in the world, and this is how we live life, always scoping, we want to fit in. We want to fit in. If I am a very green, Pākehā researcher who's never been to Pōwhiri before, you will see that I will step back and go, actually I can actually say this, I'll take that out of Pōwhiri. You can see this all apply to Pōwhiri, but in Mongolia, my husband and I went to visit my father there, and we were given a traditional Mongolian welcome on the border of China and Inner Mongolia. So Inner Mongolia is part of China, it's colonised Mongolia. And we were told to be prepared for a traditional welcome. Well, I've never had a traditional welcome in Mongolian before. I've got no idea what to do. And no one told us, so I have to use my skills of observation and scope it. So I take the first step is who I'm going to hang around with. I'm going to hang around with the Sheilas, because no doubt the woman will have a different role to the men. And I won't stand side by side with them up the front. I will stand slightly behind and follow their direction in everything that happens. And so, and this is literally what I did. So I had 3 wahine here, and I was just I wasn't doing, they were in a line, so I knew I had to be in a line, but I just stood back a little bit to honour them, but also so I could observe to see what I had to do. And I made sure I wasn't the first in line that was going to be selected for welcoming. And then by the time they'd gone through the 3 women, I knew that what was going to happen was a male elder was going to come to us, give us a little bowl of beiju, which is fermented horse milk. He would require me to pick it up and bless the sky for the nutrients that it gives the earth, bless the earth for the nutrients that it gives, and you remember it when you do good scoping, for the nutrients that it gives our soul, and bless each other for friendship keeps us alive.
Oh,
So, and then I had to drink the fermented horse milk, which actually tasted like vodka. So, and then I realised after that I had to accept by the females a blue scarf, because a blue scarf symbolised peace.
Oh, nice.
And that all finished with food.
Excellent.
So learning that meant that I could actually start to go, hey, there's things shared amongst Indigenous cultures, and so over the Mongolian meal that we had, we got told the story of Mongolia and throat singing, and the response that my husband and I had was to sing Purianak, to symbolise the winds over the Mongolian plains as well. But all of this is the scoping that researchers would do for good observation. That being really, really nosy, and then following and being part of those rules and settings. That's why I went down that path. Oh. So then you get to the descriptive, and that's when you start to get your pen out and you really start writing. I'm starting to really talk about what the setting is and how it might be unique from others. For example, Weltic Church Street is completely unique to any educational institute I've been in the world. I have never seen an institute in the world that's built on top of a stinking hill that you have to climb up to get to class. If inside the institution you don't know whether you're in a school or a high-rise building. This is completely foreign to me. So you see the descriptive notes have still got a lot of me going on in them, and then that starts to come out, and then I go, oh, and I noticed that every classroom in this building has different furniture. It's not uniform furniture like a typical educational institution. Even the chairs differ from classroom to classroom. I noticed too that despite all of this, unlike universities that I have researched, every classroom has one of these things called a smartboard. Whether they're usable smartboards or not, I haven't seen a staff member yet use it. I noticed a variety of projectors. I noticed a whole lot of stuff up here, which I can't read, so I don't know who wrote it. So I'm starting to really describe what's happening, but then I'll start to lock into times. And I'll start to go, right now, the time is this 5 minutes, this is what I observed in the room. 5 minutes later, I'll do another quick observation of what's going on. 5 minutes later, 5 minutes later. So I'm getting a really big picture of what's going on here. That's what I call delimiters and descriptors. It's when I actually go, right, this 5 minutes, this 5 minutes. I'm giving myself limitations because I know I can't observe everything and everyone. Definitely can't observe everything and everyone. Not the one that is I. So this is what, and there's no writing on here proper, it's a scribble that I put together. It is literally scribble that I put together. This is what a typical observation schedule would look like in qualitative research. At the top, I've got the setting, place, date, and the events. So it would be Weltic, today, and the events teaching this course. I've got the time, every quarter of an hour, and I've got details written for what I've seen. And at the end, I'm doing a reflection of what I think's going on. Okay, now I'm going to start to focus. I really want to know what's going on. And this is where it works beautifully in areas like alt ed. It really does for those in the BYD, because if you've got the ability to ask focused observation questions, you've got the ability to really see what's going on for your kids. These questions tend to come across on these 5 things here: space, objects, time, behaviours, and individuals. This is how it works. I've got that space, object, and individuals and everything down here, but I've also added in a few other words so I know what's actually giving me some real deep chance questions. This is all on the forms we've got. So we've got space, object, act, activity, which is pretty much the same thing, event, time, actor, the person, the individual, goal, and feeling. And it's written like that, sort of like those travel sort of time things, because I want to bring them together. So event and event, I don't know what I've got down for this one. Oh, it doesn't show up. Previous. Yeah, it was meant to show up. So, at this point, we've got an event going on, and another time where another event's going on. I've got to create one question about these events. Okay? It could be, believe it or not, this is possible. It could be as simple as what other things are going on a Saturday night diverting guys other than Aussies playing New Zealand. So there's one event, Aussies playing New Zealand for the Bendigo Cup, but what other events are happening on that same night to divert people from actually watching that? Very good question, like for a pub. If I was observing in a pub, a whole lot of guys have gone there to watch the rugby, but what other events, what other things are happening to divert their attention? And you run all the way down here, like space, which is the area, actor. How does our centre, and I'm stepping into alternative education here, how does the space of our centre encourage our young people to come in a peaceful state? And that's my observation question. And what I'm observing is this whole arrangement, this whole setting, and I'll be only focusing on 1 or 2 individuals for this, but seeing actually what actually how the actual space is contributing to their behaviour. Act, which is their action, and time. Over the course of a day, how does learning become more and more difficult for our students? Now, I'm not interviewing or anything at this point, it's simply a question, and I'm observing for it, and I do know, and my heart is with you all, that a 6-hour day on research drains the brain. And I know when I observe, I can see brains being drained. And a good observation, you know, and I've actually already fed back to the school that we can't have this course over a 6-hour day. I'll feed that back. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that smaller spaces and actually more frequent spaces is better than spaces that are like huge ones spread out and then spread out gaps between, because it stops you thinking the course of that. So how does over time, how does the act of learning become hard? Activities and goals. So what are our clients hoping to achieve in a one-on-one session with a counsellor / addictions professional / youth worker? Now, we know that as the person working with that person, what they might be achieving, they guarantee the observation will show you other goals as well happening. Because often the people that we interact with, they may present with us and say, my goal is to stop drinking by the end of the year. Whereas actually, there are other little goals in there too, and other reasons. In fact, even in the case of addiction, some people come for help on addiction because actually what they want is counselling, not to address the addiction straight away. So what other goals are they trying to achieve? Now, an observation will often pick that up, whereas the actual clinician won't, because the observation will notice some of those codependent, dependent stuff going on more. So take a break now from me talking, and what I'll get you to do is think